It's back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes.
He's going for it.
Yes! Oh my goal! What a goal!
And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And make that 9 points in the last 10 days for your Philadelphia Union. 4 games unbeaten and on a 3-game winning streak as the Union come from behind against the New England Revolution, who have now blown 24 points on the season and have blown a league-leading 15 leads this season. Yes, 15 leads this season. And I know you guys always hear me talk about how the Union blow leads and all this other stuff, but man, 15 leads on the season and 24 points the New England Revolution have given up this season. That's 4 points the Union have now taken on the Revs this season. And just what a game we saw last night in Subaru Park, where, you know, there was moments just looking in the stands and everything. I'm like, okay, is any more fans coming in the stadium? But as the game went on, that stadium absolutely started to fill up. The fans were fantastic on the night, and a lot of great voice and a lot of just positive energy coming from around the whole stadium. And to see the Union play as well as they did, I thought in the first half, and then to go down, even though I thought pretty much for the whole first half, the Union dominated it. And to see the Union just can see that goal in the 60th minute, it was unfortunate, but this team, we know they're not built to come from behind, but they do just that. They come from behind against the Revs, and just what an atmosphere it was, what a game it was. Very emotional game, as that was Stu Findlay's last game for the club, and we'll get into all that stuff here in a little bit, but there's a ton of news to talk about, and I know you guys probably have seen a lot of these news segments and everything, and I don't know, it's just nice to go ahead and give my thoughts, even though I'm sure you guys stay up to date with all that stuff on social media. But regardless, let's just get straight into the news. So starting off, DC United have traded wingback Julian Gressel to Vancouver Whitecaps for up to $900,000 in GAM. That was reported by Stephen Goff. Now, this makes a lot of sense. I was talking to my friend Billy, and when it was announced that Wayne Rooney would be taking over as manager of DC United, you know, we were looking at this roster, and they don't have a ton of pieces that have value. But the one player that stood out is Julian Gressel. There's no way they're going to go ahead and get rid of Taxi after they paid all that money to get him here. He's the best player. Wayne Rooney is going to want to build around him. They're not going to get rid of him. But a player like Julian Gressel, who has value in MLS, who can get you a ton of GAM in return, you're going to go ahead and do that move. And yes, Julian Gressel is a good player. He's a good wingback. You would look on paper and say, yeah, why wouldn't Wayne Rooney want to keep him on board? Because he's one of DC United's best players. But, you know, DC United, they have money to spend. They have 2 open DP spots. But if they can get more money to give Wayne Rooney to really put his fingerprints on this team, you're going to go ahead and move those pieces. And Wayne Rooney was talking during the week that, I forget the name of the guy, and that's my bad. I should have got the player's name, but he's an 18-year-old right back in the academy for DC United. And apparently Wayne Rooney is really, really high on him. Thinks that he's going to have a bright future for DC United. And so Wayne Rooney said, yeah, I value him a little bit more over Julian Gressel. And Julian Gressel, they got a ton of money in for, and so they go ahead and move him. But you look at Julian Gressel's time in DC, and yeah, I thought it was funny too, because Stephen Groff put out the tweet, and then Julian Gressel tweeted out and said, yeah, nice of you to find out 2 minutes after I just found out that I've been traded to Vancouver Whitecaps. But in his 2.5 seasons with DC United, In 2020, Julian joined the club from Atlanta United. He had 22 matches, 2 goals, 3 assists. In 2021, Julian's best season for the club, 34 matches played, 2 goals, 9 assists. And then this year with DC, 9 and 17 matches, no goals, 4 assists for United. But Julian Gressel, no, it didn't work out the way that he wanted to in DC. And he wasn't shy about saying that on social media. He said, "Yeah, I'm sorry that we couldn't get the club back to where they belong during my time here." And now he's looking forward to his time in Vancouver. But you go ahead and look at his time in Atlanta United in 3 seasons with Atlanta. In 2017, that was his first time with the club. 33 matches, 5 goals, 9 assists. And then his 2018 season, 38 matches, 4 goals, 13 assists. And then you go ahead and look, 36 matches, 8 goals, 12 assists. Just had a fantastic season in 2019 with Atlanta United. And then after his 2019 season, he got moved to DC United for $750,000 in TAM. And Gressel made his debut in 2020. And yeah, it sucks that, for DC fans that they couldn't see the best of Julian Gressel. But it is interesting, too, that Julian Gressel had such a huge season for Atlanta United in 2019, and he only goes for $750,000. And then you go ahead and look, he goes for 900,000, and he's not even having the season that he's had in years prior. Definitely, you can consider this a down year for Julian with DC United. But this is a player, like I said, still has value in MLS. 2017, he won MLS Rookie of the Year. He's won the US Open Cup in 2019, MLS Open Cup in 2018, both with Atlanta United. Just a fantastic player. And going back to, when Billy and I were talking about what players on DC United's roster have value, yeah, Julian Gressel, like I said, has value. And, we've been talking, I feel like, for a while. Like, if Kai Wagner leaves the club, Julian Gressel wouldn't be a bad pickup for the Union because, yeah, Nate Harriel's not a left back. Yes, Jim Curtin said Matt Real will get the chance at left back if Kai Wagner is sold. But we saw Nate Harriel play left back, I feel like, a couple times last season. Definitely saw him play left back in the Eastern Conference final. Played fantastic in that game as a left back. This guy's a very, very good defender. But I guess, you guys could hear me say, well, where would Julian Gressel fit on this team when you have Bizo? And yeah, I guess he is the same kind of player as Bizo, where they're both offense first and then defense second. It's a lot of money that DC United got back from Vancouver for Julian Gressel. So it's like, would the Union pay that much money for Julian Gressel when they have a player that's similar to Gressel and Bizo? Probably not, but I don't know. It's nice to imagine, yeah, what if the Union had Julian Gressel on this team where there's no way they would have went out and made the move to get Julian Gressel if Kai Wagner was still on the team. Yes, he's still on the team. But can you imagine just having Kai Wagner's balls from the left side of the field, and then you have the service from Julian Gressel on the right side of the field with his crosses? I mean, you'd have two of the best crossers in the league on that team, just sending in crosses into Mikael Ua, Julian Carranza, Corey Burke. Like, I don't know, that would have been exciting to see, but there's no way the Union would have played 900,000 to get Julian Gressel here, especially with Kai Wagner still here. And even if Kai's not here, I don't think the Union would have done it because Jim definitely would have given Matt Real the spot at left back to see what he can do with it. I think we for sure would have seen Nate Harriel get chances as the left back too. But yeah, DC United move on from Julian Gressel, a fantastic player. And I'm sure it's going to be the start of many more moves for DC United in terms of players leaving the club. But one player that DC is bringing in is Jamaican International Ravel Morrison on a TAM deal. He is a Jamaican international, like I said. He played with Derby County last season in the championship. And this is a player I told Billy. I was like, we were talking about this on Sunday of last week. And then a couple days later, it was announced that Ravel Morrison was going to be a DC United player. But he spent one season with Derby County, 36 appearances, 4 goals. This is a guy, was just highly thought of coming out of the Manchester United Academy. This guy was thought to be better than Paul Pogba coming out of the academy, if not better than Pogba, just the same as Paul Pogba. But he was highly, highly thought of with Paul Pogba. Um, Sir Alex Ferguson, Rio Ferdinand both said that this was the best player that they've seen at his age when he signed with the Manchester United Academy. He turned professional at his 17th birthday with Manchester United in February of 2010. He made his debut in the League Cup for Manchester United against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Never got any league games with Manchester United. A player that's had disciplinary issues in the past. He's been around a ton of clubs, has represented England's U16, 17s, 18s, and 21s. But yeah, he just wasn't going to get a chance with the England national team, the first team, and then he wound up switching to Jamaica, where he was invited to training camp with Jamaica in 2018, and he made his debut with Jamaica in 2022 in their 2022 FIFA World Cup qualification game against Honduras. But this is a player who, on his day, can be a difference maker. He's a player that plays with a chip on his shoulder, a player that has good vision, a player that can take on players 1v1, has a good eye for goal. But, he just has attitude issues. You've seen Sam Allardyce when he was at West Ham United as the manager, and Ravel Morrison left Manchester United to go to West Ham. Sam Allardyce called Ravel Morrison the biggest waste of talent that he's ever worked with, which is pretty harsh to say. But, if he can get his issues in the past resolved, I think this would be a great signing for DC United, because there's never been any question about not have talent. He for sure has talent. It's just all the other stuff that takes away from what he is as a soccer player. And I think this is a great move for DC United, especially when it was first reported that DC United were going to sign Rival on a DP contract, and definitely not a DP player. But then Steven went out and corrected and said, nah, it's actually a TAM deal. I think I saw anywhere between a year and a half contract to a 2.5 year contract. I don't think that's been official yet. DC United haven't officially reported the signing of Ravel Morrison, but that looks to be Wayne Rooney's first signing at the club, a player that's going to take over as the number 10. I was saying, yeah, keep an eye out for Juan Mata, another former Manchester United player. Wayne Rooney is going to have so many connections, a lot of players that are going to be interested in playing for Derby County. Yes, Ravel plays as a number 10, and Juan Mata plays as a number 10 too. Why would you want to bring in two number 10s? Rooney could change his system to play with two 10s and everything, but I don't know. I feel like Juan Mata coming to America makes a lot of sense. I know there's been reports that he'll go back to Spain. I mean, there's going to be a lot of options for Mata. I haven't seen any rumors that say Mata is going to come to MLS, but he's a good player, but he's not one of these like flashy players where I feel like has to live in LA, has to live in New York, has to live in Miami. I feel like DC would like be the perfect place for Mata. He loves history, he loves culture, um, and it just makes a lot of sense to see Juan Mata down in DC. But I haven't seen anything reported on that topic. I saw reports saying that Wayne Rooney could try to bring in Manchester United center back Phil Jones, injury prone Phil Jones, but Yeah, I mean, DC, they need a lot of help, especially defensively. And I think Phil Jones, even though he's had his injury problems in the past, I think he would be a major upgrade over what they have on the roster currently in terms of center backs. So, regardless, it's going to be a lot of moves that Wayne Rooney is going to be making here the next couple of months for DC United. And Ravel Morrison's not going to be the only signing that DC United make. But let's go ahead and talk about news that involves Philadelphia Union. So I'm sure you guys saw this. Of course, you guys saw this because you guys watched the Inter Miami game. But the Union, yes, they have signed Julian Carranza permanently for $500,000 in GAM. And so the Union are paying Inter Miami $250,000 in 2023 and $250,000 in 2024. Inter Miami also get a future sell-on percentage that hasn't been reported. At least I haven't seen it. Maybe you guys have seen it someplace. I have not. But I gotta imagine that Inter Miami are probably going to make 15-20% from whatever the Union get for selling Julian Carranza. But like the crazy thing about this deal, and I know TAM, GAM, all that kind of stuff doesn't really equal what actual money is worth. I know GAM's technically a little bit more expensive than real money, but isn't it funny that Inter Miami go out and buy Julian Carranza for $6 million, and the Philadelphia Union wind up getting him for 500,000 in game? Like we talked about Ernst Tanner and the move that he made to get Julian Carranza, but to make this move permanent only for 500,000 in GAM. And what makes that even more funny is the Union got Julian Carranza this season for nothing. The Union didn't pay anything to get Julian Carranza this season. So basically, Inter Miami sent Julian Carranza to Philadelphia for free. Yes, I know when the Union took one Julian Carranza on loan, they gave away a super draft pick, which was the equivalent of $50,000 in GAM. So I guess technically the Union paid $50,000 to get Julian Carranza, but really the Union didn't give up any money. They just gave up a draft pick that's worth $50,000. I mean, we give Ernst Tanner a ton of credit for just the work that he does with the Union, with the moves that he pulls off, the scouting that he does. But to get a player that Inter Miami spent $6 million to acquire, to get a player like that on loan, then you wind up agreeing a fee of $500,000 in GAM, to where you don't even, that money that you agreed to, you don't even pay it in 2022. So the Union have GAM after they sold Sergio Santos. They're going to have GAM once the Stu Findlay deal becomes permanent. They just got money for Austin Trusty. I think I saw $300,000 in GAM. So the Union have more money than they initially started out with in the summertime. And will the Union go ahead and put that money to use? Yeah, it's very possible. GAM doesn't follow over to the next season. So it's like you would expect the Union to do something with that money. But just Ernst Tanner, how do you pull off a move like this? I think that just shows you just how poorly run Inter Miami really were before Chris Henderson got there. Uh, he's happy that he got something for Julian Carranza, and then you get a future sell-on percentage. It's a good move from Inter Miami, but yeah, they really botched this deal from the top to the beginning. To pay $6 million to lose him for 500,000, that's only 8% the Union got him for. 8% of what Inter Miami paid. And I said it. GAM isn't really equivalent to what actual money is, but what a move! Happy that Ernst Tanner made this deal happen. And there was a clause on the contract that said if Julian Carranza had 15 goals and assists, uh, not 15 goals and 15 assists, but if he had assists and goals total of 15 or more, that the Union would have to make this deal permanent. And he was close to it, and so Ernst and Jim looked at it and said, yeah, let's go ahead and make this permanent because Julian's definitely going to hit that threshold. And, we could use him against DC United. And yes, he didn't start that game against DC United, but came off the bench, made an impact with his pressing. I think he had like 1 or 2 shots in that game. So, yeah, nice to see Julian Carranza official with the Union. But the last bit of news I want to talk about in regards to the Union is MLS has fined Ernst Tanner for comments he made to the media that called into question without factual basis the integrity of Major League Soccer and Los Angeles Football Club. These comments were without merit and are in violation of the league's public criticism policy. I mean, you guys have heard me talk about it on this podcast. How is Chiellini? How is Gareth Bale? Both TAM players. And I know Ernst Tanner's comments got taken out of context, but Ernst Tanner, is not buying into Gareth Bale and Chiellini costing 1.6 million, and you still have a DP roster spot open. It's like none of this makes sense. You already have one team in Inter Miami that got caught cheating. What's stopping another team in LAFC from doing the same thing? When you look at the Zlatan deal when he was with the Galaxy, yes, he was making TAM money his first season, but he got given ownership of a club in Sweden, I believe it was. And so there's no way that the Galaxy would have been able to bring Zlatan to the club on just a TAM deal alone. No, they go out and give him all these other incentives to get him to come to LA. And all Ernst Tanner is saying is, look, this doesn't make sense. Are we sure that nothing suspicious is going on? The league's not happy with Ernst Tanner calling them in LAFC out in public. Because like I said, when you have one club cheating and Inter Miami, what's stopping another club from doing something sketchy? And I know there's been fans that have always called out MLS for the special treatment it seems that they give to the New York clubs or the Los Angeles clubs. But yeah, you guys heard me a couple weeks ago say how is Gareth Bale a TAM player? And that's all Ernst Tanner is saying too, and MLS didn't like that. But it's just not right, in my opinion, for MLS to fine Ernst Tanner because he's not the only GM, sporting director in MLS that feels this way. You know that there's other GMs that talk around the league that feel the exact same way, but Ernst Tanner is the only one that went out in public. And I'm pretty sure didn't Bruce Arena complain about something similar a couple weeks ago too. So yeah, I don't know. It's I don't think Ernst Tanner is wrong for this. I just think that MLS is being really, really soft, and they're not happy with being called out by Ernst Tanner. But let's go ahead and talk about the Philadelphia Union versus New England Revolution game, and just what a wild, emotional ride the Union put everyone through with 12 shots in the first half and only 3 of them on target. The Union come out in a formation change to a 4-2-3-1 with McGlynn and Jose Martinez as the 2 holding sixes, and you put Leon Flock and Paxton Aronson as your 2 outside wingers, which was strange to see because we all know neither one of those players are wingers by any means, especially Liam Flock. He's more defensive than offensive, and you see him put him in such an attacking position. It just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. But, I got to give Jim Curtin full credit just for what he did tactically, what he's doing tactically as a manager. A guy that's proven this year that he's not only a man manager, but he can also make those tactical changes too to help the Union get an advantage. And it helps that you have so much roster flexibility. For sure, I'm not taking any of that away where you have players that can play in multiple different positions. Yes, that helps. And it leads to you being able to do different things with your lineup. But full credit to Jim Curtin for diving into analytics, diving into his players' abilities, what they thrive in, what they do best in. And Jim Curtin spoke about, the formation change and why he went with Leon and Paxton Aronson as his two wingers.
I think, first you have to think of the opponent, right? So New England is the number one team in terms of crosses and accuracy with those crosses, and they create goals from them. So the thinking was to have, some fresh legs on the field was important for sure, but to also have Paxton and Leon in a starting point where they're a little bit wider as wingers. Again, they're not wingers, and you know what I mean? I wouldn't say either of them is truly a winger by design, but tactically for today, that's what the team needed. We knew that was their strength. I think we did a decent job limiting the crosses. Look, New England's a great team, so they're going to hurt you, and you're going to have to sacrifice and suffer a little bit. So they did get at us in the wide areas. But overall, with Jack McGlynn's skill set too, you want to have him sit next to Jose, and I thought he found really good spaces on the field. So it's a lot of different things, Matt, where you're kind of juggling. How do you set these guys up for the most success? And then also how do you factor in the opponent's strengths and trying to take them away? So number one was to take away the wide players. And then the other one is to have a second guy in there when Carlos Gil drifts literally to the right, to the left. He's all over the field finding the ball. And I thought overall, again, he's the best player in the league. So it's difficult to stop him. But overall, we did make him play square and backwards quite a bit, which was successful, and we kind of limited his chances as best we could. He still hurt us a little bit, but overall, the formation change is just a little tweak based on the opponent. The 2 days rest, and trying to get a fresh group out on the field.
You've got to have Leon in your lineup all times for defensive purposes. He just offers way too much to this team defensively. Where, I know fans call him out for how little he offers offensively, but what he does defensively with his hustle, that outweighs the little that he does offensively that fans don't like to see. And I think that Leon's got better the last couple of weeks offensively. He's more comfortable taking players on 1v1. You see his passing getting better as the weeks have went on too. And so I think just again, tactically, Jim's changing things up a little bit more. He's deciding, okay, when Kai Wagner is going to sit back, they'll communicate Kai and Leon on the field. Okay, look, I'm going to go up for right here. There's space that I'm finding right here in the midfield. Or Kai's going to say, yeah, I'm finding a lot of space out here out wide. And so I'll go up, you come back for me and everything. I mean, communication's key, right? But I'm just really, really impressed with what we've been seeing from Leon offensively in terms, like I said, of taking players on 1v1, and just his passing has been getting better. And that's something that I've been super critical about. And I think, too, when you go ahead and look, when I talked about my season previews and everything, I talked about wanting to see Leon get better passing-wise, and he's done exactly that this season, especially as of late. And you look between Paxton and Leon Flock, they had 7 ball recoveries between the two of them. I mean, they pressed relentlessly. They, weren't your traditional wingers where they took players on 1v1, sent in crosses into the box. But, what they did offensively was press. And yes, that doesn't really show up in stats, but defensively, they worked their tails off. Neither of those guys had a ton of touches in this match, and that's fine. The Union worked Jack McGlynn a ton in this game. They had Daniel Gaza get a ton of touches. They used Kai Wagner like they always do. And then they have that whole formation change where they go to the diamond from the 4-2-3-1 to bringing on Bedoya, bringing on Bizer, bringing on Corey Burke and Mikael. And now the Union go back to playing the way that they're used to playing, where you're getting Kai Wagner sending in a ton of crosses. Bizer's now on the field for offensive purposes. He's going to send in a lot of crosses. And so then you go from, okay, playing Jack McGlynn spraying passes all over the field to now we're going to go ahead and beat you with our wingers and send crosses into the box and have a lot of 1-2 passes. But speaking of Jack McGlynn, and I said it last year, and I think I'm going to stick with it, that in my opinion, he's the best player out of all the current homegrowns on this roster. And the reason I say that is because the vision and the passing of this kid is just unbelievable. You've heard Jim compare his left foot to Harris Mendunian, and I think it's, between Jack and Kai Wagner as the best passers on this team. The passes he was spraying around on the field on the night was just unbelievable. Seeing that he completed 95% of his passes on the night, 54 out of 57. He had the most touches of any players on the night. Just a really special night from him. Jim Curtin talked after the DC United game how tactically they dropped Bedoya back a little bit deeper, get him on the ball to really just control the possession, to pick out passes. And yeah, Bedoya didn't get the start. And so the role that they've been having Bedoya play, and I know Bedoya plays on the right and McGlynn plays on the left, but Jack was controlling the tempo of the game with his passing, with his vision on the night. And that's when Jack McGlynn is at his best. And he said after the game that he feels more freedom playing as one of the sixes. That way he can drop deeper and make things happen. And if you want to see the best of Jack McGlynn, you always have to play him in a formation where there's another six next to him who will do the defensive work. But, actually I thought Jack looked good defensively as well last night. He was getting himself in some really good positions to shoot the ball. And spoiler alert, he's going to be my player of the match. But yeah, he was just a fantastic player on the night, just really dictating the game with his passing. He had a pass that was just off the charts to Corey Burke later in the second half. That pass to Bedoya that led to the penalty kick. The vision of this kid, and it's hard to believe that he's only 18 years old when that performance I thought he had last night, it looked like he'd been a professional for 5+ years. And Jack McGlynn, yeah, he can play as the left-sided 8, but I just think it's too much defensive work for him, too much offensive work for him, where, yeah, you go ahead and let him play next to another 6 where he can just spray those passes around, drop deep, go for it, find the space. That's when Jack McGlynn's going to be at his best. And if you always play Jack McGlynn in a formation like that, he'll be the best homegrown player out of Paxton Aronson, Quinn Sullivan. And I know it's hard to say that when you look at what Quinn and Paxton did down with the U20s. But again, it's the U20s. And I would say out of all 4 of the homegrowns on this team that were signed last year, that Jack McGlynn is the one that's most comfortable playing against other professional players. But like I said earlier, the Union had 12 shots in the first half with the 4-2-3-1 formation. And I thought the formation worked well. The Union, for about 30 minutes in this match, had a ton of open space in the middle of the field. They completely had New England overrun in the midfield, and just a ton of great passes, like I said. Lots of 1-2s, just a ton of really good combination play from the Union. You saw Stu Findlay and Jacob Glesnes. They both had moments in this game when they dribbled past a player at the halfway line, and now they're in the attacking third for the Union because there would be nobody in the midfield for New England. Just a ton of time and space for the Union on the ball in the first half. And as the second half, went on, that spacing definitely disappeared, and especially when the Union went to the 4-4-2 diamond. But just overall, was happy with what I saw with the 4-2-3-1. Disappointed that the Union couldn't get a goal. They created a ton of chances, like I said, just only 3 shots on target. But I think the Union proved that, yeah, they can play in a three back system. They can play in the 4-2-3-1. They can play in the Christmas tree. They can play in the diamond. They have a lot of roster flexibility. And you go ahead and look at the first 10, 15 games on the season where the Union were struggling passing the ball. But as the season's gone on, and really the last 3, 4 games, they look really comfortable moving the ball fast and accurately. Still the second lowest team in terms of passing accuracy on the season with 71% completed passes. But again, the last 3, 4 games, I think they've completed 80% or more of their passes. And I look, at somebody like Julian Carranza on the night, who I think only completed 60% of his passes. I didn't think he had the greatest game in my opinion. He gave the ball away a couple times with some poor passing, got dispossessed once or twice. But I think it proves that Julian Carranza isn't a lone striker, can't play as a lone striker. Somebody like Corey Burke, somebody like Mikael Ua can play as that lone striker. But Julian Carranza was more fresh than Mikael and Corey Burke, so it made sense why you started Julian in this game as the lone striker. But, it shows the depth of this team where, okay, yeah, you go with Julian Carranza, who's not having the best night. You can bring in Corey Burke, you can bring in Ua, change formations up. They make a difference when they come on the field. Bizo makes a difference. Bedoya makes a difference when they come on the field. I mean, just this whole game changed when the Union went to the 4-4-2. And again, it's just a huge credit to what Jim Curtin can do tactically with this team. I want to talk about Stuart Findlay here for a minute, if we don't mind. I've had the pleasure to speak with him a couple of times. He's a really great guy, great player, just really easy to talk to in the locker room. And it just sucks that he was stuck between two of the best center backs in the league. Yeah, sure, you could have switched to a three-man back line to get him into the team, but the Union didn't do that when they had Mark McKenzie, Jacob Glesnes, and Jack Elliott as your three center backs on this team. And so I don't think fans would say that Stuart Findlay was better than Mark McKenzie. And so it's like, if you're not switching to a three-man back line when Mark McKenzie was here, then you're really not going to do it much with Stuart Findlay. But Jim Curtin spoke about Stu staying an extra week because of Jack's injury, his knee injury. And, that just speaks so much of the character of the guy. Only 8 starts and 11 appearances in the last year and a half for Stu in the league. And Stu's spoken about it multiple times how he wants to play more, but he's never complained about it to the media. He's never complained about it on social media. All he's done is say, yeah, I wish I could play more, but he goes about his business. He does his job. And that's a guy that, you would love to have 11 Stuart Findlays on your starting 11, who, okay, is not getting as much opportunities as he wants, but he knows it's team first before myself. And just to see Stuart Findlay have that kind of mentality the last year and a half, I mean, that goes such a long ways for this team. And Jim Curtin spoke exactly on what Stuart Findlay's meant to this team.
I'd like to individually thank Stuart Findlay for everything that he did for this club. Again, I know he would have preferred more minutes on the field, but what he gave to this group, to the locker room, to the young players, being a professional, and if you probably go back and look at every game he played in, we don't concede a lot of goals when he's on the field, and he did a great job for us. We leave on I think happy terms on both sides. Sometimes in sports, there's good decisions for both sides that benefit each party. We'll miss him, but again, talk about a guy who was a true professional, gave everything for the club in his time here, and I just want to single him out and thank him.
And again, I mean, it's just a huge testament for the player Stu is to have that impact he's had on this team, on this fan base, despite not getting a ton of playing time. He'll truly go down as a cult hero with this fan base. I mean, he's been so loved because of what the social media team's been doing with Stuart Findlay for just being a great teammate, giving great sound bites, giving great pictures for fans to use as memes on social media. I mean, this guy's been phenomenal. And it does feel a little weird saying that as he's only played 11 times in the league, like I said, but no, it's just all credit to him. And I love how the Union allowed Stu to go bang the drum after the game. All his teammates, staff embracing him after the game with hugs. Stu going around the stadium, taking it all in, signing stuff, taking pictures with the fans. Just what a moment, because when I saw him last Friday in the press box area up top there where the players sit, I truly thought that was just it for Stuart Findlay. He was sitting around just taking it all in. You could tell that he was just trying to enjoy every bit of the moment. And he talked about it after the game when we talked to him, where he said, if you would have told me that, I would have played 2 times in the last couple of days, I would have called you a liar. And just, that takes a lot where you're risking a potential injury, helping out a team when your team and the team you're going to have already agreed you're going to be leaving the club. You said, hey, look, actually, I'm going to stay here for another week because one of your players are injured. I want to help you guys get as much points as you can. And he did exactly that. And again, that's just a huge credit for what type of person Stu Findlay is. Just, going from Friday, just trying to take in every single moment that we were expecting not to see him play anymore, to him starting against Inter Miami and him starting against New England. And both of those games that he played in, the Union get the win. So close to keeping a clean sheet against Miami. Like Jim said, doesn't concede a ton of goals when he's on the field. And I was looking on Football Brief, where I get a lot of my stats. Stuart Findlay was in the 99 percentile for center backs in MLS in terms of block shots. This guy is just a fantastic center back. Always positions himself so well. He has speed, which is something you can say a lot of center backs don't have. Just what a player. And I really try to separate my fandom and professionalism when I talk about this team. But, Stu's definitely going to be a player that I'll miss. And it's going to be interesting to see who steps up as that guy who's going to bring the laughs, keeping the locker room together. And I asked Stuart Findlay when we were given access to the locker room, I asked him what he'll remember most about his time in Philadelphia, and this is what he had to say.
I've met a lot of fantastic people when I've been here. I've met friends for life. I've met people that I will definitely see in the future. I've experienced a lot of new things, but definitely the people. Me and my wife, we've been so lucky to make so many wonderful friends for life since we came here. And as I said, sometimes there's more to life than just playing every week. And to make the connections that I've made, that's something that will live with me forever here.
And to say that, some things are bigger than just playing games, the friendships that he's made. It takes a lot for a player to admit that I didn't play a lot, but, forget all that. I look at the friendships that I've made here, helping the team the last 2 games get 6 points to put them in the best position that they could possibly be in before I go off to a new adventure to get more playing time and hopefully get into the national team. Like I said, it takes a lot for a player to say, I'm going to stay an extra week and risk a potential injury and help this team out, even though I haven't been given a ton of playing time. And Stuart Findlay does just that. You're kind of lost for words, just really what he means to give so much to this club the last couple of weeks, but really the last year and a half that he's been here in the club. And I asked him, do you think that you could potentially return back to Philadelphia one day? And this is what he had to say.
Never say never. You don't enjoy a place this much, you want to wash your hands of it. So even if it's not in a professional sense, I'll definitely be back here on vacation next year to see all my friends. But you never know what the future holds, and I'll be open to anything.
Yeah, and to hear him say, yeah, maybe not as a professional, but I'll definitely be back here to come on vacation to visit my friends, to visit the city. I mean, that tells you how much that Philadelphia meant for him. And I'm definitely going to miss him. Definitely, what a player he was. And like I said, I mean, it's weird because he only played 11 times, but um, just a great guy in the locker room, great guy to speak to. And, those are the type of players, even though they don't play a lot, those are the type of people that you miss. And like I said, the social media bits will stand out for me, but I think my biggest Stu Findlay moment is him starting in the Eastern Conference Finals with Colin against New York City, just lifting Bizo and Harriel up after they conceded that goal. This guy was a real warrior, a real leader on the field every time that he played. The communication that he constantly had with his center backs and other teammates. Um, you knew if Jacob or Jack couldn't go that there wasn't much drop off there when Stewart played. And now it's going to be up to Brendan Craig to step up and fill that void that Stu's leaving in behind. Will the Union go out and get another center back? Jim Curtin's been asked about that, and he said, don't rule anything out, but um, they really trust Brendan Craig to step up in that third center back role. And I'm not sure how much playing time we'll see Brandon get. We saw him get his debut, obviously, against DC United, but if Stuart Findlay couldn't get into this team, what makes us think that Brendan Craig is really going to get into this team? But I guess, like I said, when Jacob Glesnes or Jack Elliott went down, you knew that you're not losing a lot when Stuart Findlay's stepping onto the field. And hopefully the same can be said about Brendan Craig. But what a player. Definitely going to miss him. And yeah, good luck to him. Hopefully he can get back into the Scotland national team. I know he only played once with Scotland, scored on his debut. Hopefully, he's not in League One for a long time. Hopefully, he impresses well and gets a chance to experience Premier League soccer again, or Bundesliga, or just anywhere else in Europe. I mean, this is just a quality player, and you don't fault Stuart Findlay for wanting to leave to get more playing time as he's 26, as he still has a lot to give, but he doesn't want to spend the prime years of his career on the bench. So you get why he wants to leave, and uh, can't be mad at him for winning playing time. But let's go ahead and talk about my 3 stars of the game. So, like I told you guys, Jack McGlynn, star number 1 of the night, but don't have to go into why that is. Spend a lot of time talking about Jack McGlynn, in my opinion. But number 3, Kai Wagner, 1 assist, his 10th assist on the season, 5 chances created, 2 interceptions, 7 recoveries. I don't think Kai had his best night defensively. Got beat a couple times, 1v1. Missed out on a lot of duels. But yeah, offensively, just Kai continues to create chances for this team. The best chance creator on the team is Kai Wagner. Now, that would change in my opinion if Jack McGlynn played every single week, where he would play as the other number 6, 2 number 6s. But you're not going to do that. So Kai Wagner is going to continue to be your best chance creator. But what a night that Kai had. His deliveries on set pieces just, I feel like, get better and better. And to see him now be number 3 all time on the Union's assist leaders with 27, hopefully he's still around until the end of the season, because we all know it's going to be a huge blow if Kai Wagner, in fact, gets sold during the summer transfer window. Number 2 on my list is Daniel Gazdag. 1 goal, 2 chances created. 82 of his passes were completed. 57 touches, 1-1, tackles 1, 4-5, ground duels 1. Just Daniel Gazdag, I mean, yeah, I know his goal that he scored against Miami, his goal that he scored against New England, they were both penalties. And people don't give players a ton of credit that just score penalties. And I know Daniel Gazag's only scored 3 penalties on the season. He has 9 goals on the season, so 6 of his goals have come from open play. But, he's so much more than just a penalty kick taker specialist. You see what he's doing, linking up with the strikers, with other players on the field, feeling more comfortable playing these one-time passes, these 1-2s with the strikers. His movement's been fantastic. He really dictated the game last night with his 57 touches, creating passes, chances. Just a terrific night for Daniel Gazdag, and great to see him get back-to-back games on the score sheet, even though I know they were penalties, but you got to convert them still. And terrific penalty in Miami, and I think an even better penalty against New England. But let's go ahead and break down the goals. We had 3 goals on the night, and yes, finally I can record the goals with my app and break down what I saw. And so the goal that New England scored with Gustavo Bou, I think it was like 15 or 16 touches on the build-up before the goal. But if you go ahead and look, the play starts all the way in the defensive half with New England. They even get the goalkeeper involved here with a pass. But what's interesting is when New England finally gets into the attacking third, Gustavo Bou go ahead and drops a little bit deeper than what you normally want from your strikers. And Jacob Glissnes then has to come out of position to pick up Gustavo Bou. Does good to force Gustavo Bou to turn away from goal to go out wide. Kai Wagner gets sucked in a little bit towards the ball, which then leaves Brendan Bye wide open on the right side of the field. But then if you pay attention to Gustavo Bou, you had Nate Harriel watching his guy. You had Jacob Glissnes following the run of Gustavo Bou. But Gustavo Bou is a very intelligent striker here. He just makes a run off of Jacob Glissnes' shoulder last minute. Leon Flock could have done a little bit better to get into the box to try to pick up on this. But yeah, this is just all Gustavo Bou just making that run off of Jacob Glissnes' shoulder. Fantastic ball in by Brendan Bye. And just a fantastic finish by Gustavo Bou. There's just nothing that Jacob Glissnes could have done in this goal. You wish that he would have stayed tighter on Bou, but again, I talked about just Bou being such an intelligent striker, making that run off of Glissnes' shoulder, and a great first-time finish. And then you can go ahead to the Mikael Uhre goal, came off of a set piece, came off of a corner kick, and I have no clue what Petrovic is doing here, the goalkeeper for New England. Kai Wagner sends a terrific ball in. The Union, like we've seen them do so many times this season, they try to go for the near post, but they kind of went away with that this game, where they lined up 4 players on and around the center circle, around the center penalty spot. Kai Wagner plays a fantastic cross into Uhre. Like I said, Petrovic comes out of goal. Not sure why he came so far out of his goal. Mikael beats his marker easily and has an empty net to put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, just terrible goalkeeping from Petrovic. Shouldn't have came out to try to punch this ball, catch this ball. Completely misses the ball. And yeah, Mikael gets a good header on the ball and empty net. Not much to it, but this is definitely an error by Petrovic. Shouldn't have came out of his goal to try to catch that ball. And then you go ahead and look the penalty. Like I mentioned earlier, the ball that Jack McGlynn plays to Ali Bedoya. Great positioning from Bedoya to win the header, to lay the ball back across inside the box to Daniel Gazdag. Daniel Gazdag so smart here. He goes and waits for the ball to come to him. He chests the ball in front of him because Kessler, and of course it has to be Kessler, right, is behind him. Kessler is beat, and there's nothing he can do on this play other than hit Daniel Gazdag down. And that's exactly what he does. It's such a clear and obvious penalty. He knows it. He looks away in disgust, but this play starts with Jack McGlynn playing a terrific ball to Ali Bedoya. Bedoya does such a great job to position himself to head this ball down to Daniel Gazdag. And Gazdag's smart. He knows he's going to have Kessler coming in on term, so he chests the ball down and just waits for the contact, goes down from the Kessler push, and it's an easy penalty. So not much to break down in those goals other than really the Gustavo Bo. A great build out of the back from New England. Like I said, I think 15 goals, 15 passes that led to that goal. Let's go ahead and talk about blunder of the week. A lot of great options. My friend Kyle's like, oh, dude, you got to get blunder of the week to Barcelona for them signing players, but they can't register them. And yeah, that's a good shout. But my blunder of the week's going to go to Phil Neville on just how excited he is to play Barcelona in this biggest game in club history.
Like I say, I think it's the biggest match in the club's history. First time this stadium's ever been sold out for an Inter Miami game. It's so important on so many levels, and I'd say categorically that every single player will want to play in that game. Somebody said the other night about tiredness, and I give a little bit speech to the team about the best players in the world don't get tired. The best players in the world play every single minute of every single game. And why do they do that? Because they do everything right. They do everything right in their lives to make sure that they can perform on a Tuesday and a Saturday and a Tuesday and a Saturday.
Yeah, and you can hear in his voice, he is so excited for this friendly against Barcelona. Dude, it is a friendly. Like, why are you getting so excited for a game that means nothing for you, means nothing for Barcelona? You're talking about, oh, this is the first time ever in Inter Miami history that we're going to have a sellout stadium. Look, people aren't coming to your stadium to see Inter Miami. They're coming to the stadium to see Barcelona. You should have that excitement about your league matches, not a friendly that means nothing. And then you have him talking about one of his players, talking about, tiredness. What does that say about the mentality of your players when they're complaining about, we're tired, but we want to play in this game against Barcelona? And he's talking about, the best players in the world, get themselves ready to play on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Like, we talked about the mess that Inter Miami were in earlier with giving away Julian Carranza this season for free to the Union. And then Phil Neville goes out and gives us this beautiful soundbite of his excitement to play Barcelona and how this is just such a big deal, how it's the biggest game in club history. Dude, it's a friendly. Like, how can you say with a straight face, with that much excitement, that, this is the biggest game, we can't wait to play a friendly that means nothing, where you should be excited for league games. You should be excited for trying to get into the playoffs, not playing Barcelona. Who cares that you're playing Barcelona? Like, it's a friendly. Like, okay, you're playing Barcelona, but I don't see New York Red Bulls getting excited for playing Barcelona in a friendly. But here's Phil Neville saying this is the biggest game in club history. I don't hear Struber, the New York Red Bulls coach, saying, this is the biggest game in New York Red Bulls history. No, he would never say anything like that. But you have Phil Neville just so excited to play Barcelona, to have a sellout stadium for the first time ever in Miami. But it's not because of your team. It's because of Barcelona. Like, come on, Phil. Like, I appreciate the great soundbite. But if I'm an Inter Miami fan, like, I'm pissed off with your comments. And I saw he got absolutely roasted on social media. So there you have it. Phil Neville getting blunder of the week. And it's so easy to give Inter Miami, I feel like, blunder of the week every single week. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, go ahead and follow @FreeKickPod. Wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. And I don't know who it was. They never left, comments and everything. I did see that they left a star review, though, on Apple Podcast. And I really appreciate that. If you guys are enjoying the show, or if you think that something needs to be better, or what you don't like about the show, I'll take all feedback. So I appreciate whoever it was that left that 5-star review. Just happy to give you guys content that you deserve, really. And I don't know how you guys listen to me talk by myself every single week, but you guys do it. And I just really, really appreciate that. And especially, too, when I look at where people are listening to the podcast from. I mean, listening to the podcast all over the United States. It's not just in Philadelphia. It's not just in New Jersey. I mean, in the Midwest, for whatever reason, there's a ton of people listening to the podcast. And so maybe you guys are Union fans. Maybe you guys just like MLS. And whatever the reason is, you guys listen to this podcast, and I really, really appreciate that. And of course, check out the website, thefreekick.net, and hopefully sometime this week we can get somebody in from Orlando City to preview this upcoming match. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.